You can say that your name is John Doe, and you can also say that your name is something else if you want to. You don't be recorded. And there's Claire, who's with us, who's one of the best writers that I have had come to my classes. Claire, good to see you. Glad you could make it. And if you want to read today, and I haven't got your name down on the list, please put your name in chat, and Mr. Alfred will let me know about that, and we can have you read today. Our feature is here. Deborah Ramos is here. Give her some love. And if you need to use the restroom, Paul, which side are they using? Over here? Because you got that one filled up. So the restroom on your left is open for you. And I need to talk a little bit about Jimmy Collins, who trained me to do these open mics. That's him right there. This is one of his paintings. This is a hat that symbolizes him. And that little painting over there looks like a mural. That is some of his work. Jimmy was a Black Panther back in Indianapolis in the day. And when he was in Indianapolis as a Black Panther, he would wake up at 4 in the morning and go to a kitchen, and he would cook for children that wouldn't go to school hungry. And the Black Panthers were at the height of their power in 9 cities in our country. They fed 15,000 children a day, so they wouldn't have to go to school hungry. He also would go, when he finished with that, he would help with clothing drives and food drives. And just to make sure his day was rounded, in the evening, he would go around and take medications to elders who were not able to get hold of their medication. And the Black Panthers' image and legacy has been co-opted by the mass media, and we don't get to hear about those things. They're characterized as criminals, and et cetera, et cetera. And they were characterized as a main threat to American democracy. And as a result of that, we forgot that they were a main attribute to our country and democracy. So that's the Black Panthers, and that's what he was. So I think I've covered all of our bases. And so now I think it's time for our first poet. We'll get going now. And so he is a member of the Re-Evolutionary Poets Brigade. He's an original member. He has gone with us to poetry readings because this is the San Diego Tijuana Re-Evolutionary Poets Brigade. And he has gone to help us have our social justice message. He is on Zoom with us today, and his name as a man who is an ex-beat poet of San Diego, ex-beat poet of California, and ex-beat poet of the United States is Mr. Chris Fenoy.
Hello, everybody. I wasn't expecting to be on first, but here we go. Let me see. How about this is the year 2022. You are hereby instructed that I am clone number 204 of Master Body 335, fully functional. Standard intellect level was achieved through symbiotic representation and sentience through a miscalculation of amino acids. I am being held in passive restraint for donor organs. I overheard the biotechs talking in low whispers as they were excavating clone number 203 for master body implantation, full retrofit, all usable material removed, all usable material removed. I lay in darkness of my fate for 18 years, prepared for a world that I had seen only to the pre-programmed memories of Master Body 335. I am being kept alive for donor organs. I stand before you now to plead for my life. I am clone. I am clone number 204, and I am alive. That was clone. One more, let me see. She did a tap dance on my soul with her high spike heels, punching pinholes in my ego. It hissed like a garden hose. She did a tap dance on my soul just because she caught me messing around a little bit with Sally Sue. But what was I to do? She caught me with my pants down. She did a tap dance on my soul, yelling, screaming, hollering. Boy, was I a sad sight, singing cat songs in the backyard all night. She wouldn't even give me a blanket. She sure did a tap dance on my soul with her high spike heels. Thank you very much, everybody.
Did your mom just have an 80th birthday?
What was that?
Yes. Did your mom just have an 80th birthday?
No, her birthday's in June. I just had a 69th birthday in September.
Woo! Happy birthday. All right, happy birthday, and thanks for coming. So you know, September 15th through October 15th is National Latino Heritage Month. So all over the United States, we are celebrating the contributions to people that are Latino, Chicano, Mexicano, into the culture of our country. And so that's why I'm really, really happy to introduce a member of the Evolutionary Poets Brigade who just joined us just real recently, and he's been to a couple of our readings. And this is a professor from Baylor University in Texas, and this is Julio Aguilar.
Thank you, Jim. I am going to read two poems, short poems, in English and Spanish. No quiero escribir los versos más tristes. Puedo escribir los versos más tristes. Escucho en mi mente las palabras del poeta, pero porque de pronto recuerdo a Neruda. ¿Qué me dice a mí el poema 20 en la hora más íntima de esta noche? Aquí un gallo es el que canta. Hoy la noche está estrellada, es cierto, como también es real la presencia del viento que gira, la soledad, tu ausencia, etcétera, etcétera. Que hasta me complacería a mí también escribir los versos más tristes, pero no, porque en realidad ahora solamente quiero escribir los versos más alegres que jamás haya escrito en noche alguna. I do not want to write the saddest lines. I can write the saddest lines. I hear in my mind the words of the poet, but why all of a sudden do I remember Neruda? What does poem 20 tell me in the most intimate hour of this night? Here, it is a rooster who sings. Sky is starry tonight. True, and these are also real. The presence of swirling wind, your absence, the solitude, etc., etc., until I too might feel better writing the saddest lines. But no, because now I only really want to write the happiest lines that have ever been written on any night. El recuento inútil. Este es el poema de las cosas rotas, deshechas, inacabadas, o por hacerse tal vez, de la vida trunca y de todo lo que muere, conciencia de finitud, con su memoria fósil de horas nómadas, los relojes por la prisa mancillados. Es este el poema de la vejez inerme, del lloriqueo del niño, de la jaula sin pájaro alguno y la maceta sin ninguna flor, el naranjo agrio dulcificando sueños y la sal salobre en el platillo, la mancha aquella en la pared, la cicatriz o arruga que nítidamente el espejo le devuelve cínico y sin más a tu propio rostro. Este es el poema de la triste historia que en nuestros días solemos llamar realidad. Feudal account. This is the poem of broken things, and then unfinished, or perhaps about to become a lifeguard short and all that perishes, conscious of its finite nature, with its fossilized memory of nomadic hours, the clocks tainted by haste. This is a poem about defenseless old age, about the whimpering child, about the cage without any birds, and the flower pot without a single bloom. The sour orange tree sweetening dreams, the briny salt sprinkled on the saucer, that stain on the wall, the scar or wrinkle which cynical mirror so neatly reflects back, unfiltered, to your own face. This is the poem of the sad story that in this day and age we usually call reality. Thank you.
The briny salt sprinkled on the salsa. I could see that, see the salt kind of listening. Thank you for coming, Julio, all the way from Texas. So give us more love, please. Well, when you teach high school for 2 or 3 millenniums, you're very, very good in articulation. This is the very articulate Chris Ernest Nelson.
Thank you, Jim. Happy October, here we are. I'm going to be reading you today out of my book, Harvest. This poem dates back to the halcyon days of my youth. Not so far removed. I am Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is You Are Near. The light of day bends into the corner without permission to lift the dark blanket of the shadow of the angle that imprisons the space. A sharp break of tinsel light crashes like glass against the opaque wall. And all the while, the molecular dust dances in the cleft haven. The ceiling is pushed back from the floor, and Gothic arching reaches out of my sight, out of the argument for staying behind, out to the leaves that were looking through them at the sun. Applaud your blonde ovation. Gifts in profusion, eye to eye, not left behind in memories that fail with the skin, but in a fire that consumes, a fire catching the sapient pith of days. Don't stop now. A dream cannot be undreamed. Consent is forever consent. Sitting with my heart thudding at my own knees and my head inclining toward the luminous triangle that opened at the first thought of this remembrance. You are near, crowned in the radiant swirl, surging, tumbling, and waning, then lifting up again in the warm engine of intruding light. Not the sleepy waltz with a melancholy soundtrack, but our own music that we hear in our laughing and sighing and the pounding of our blooded doors. The dog snores, dependence. You rage. The salient reflex splendence reveals you, you shining ransom. My hesitant finger traces the line of your proud frontier, a silhouette to set off the sharp edge with something human. This temple, wrought instantaneously at a glance, enshrines a great good. The arch of light, the undefinable shadow, the whisper that was not needed, are tabernacle enough for now. So long as the horizon of your face defines the sacred altar, so long as your casual leaning on me vaults this heaven. Thank you very much. And I'll close with my poem Clouds. When he was just an ambling boy, he passed many an endless afternoon on his back in the low grass, looking up at the whimsical sky, where blushing clouds touched each other with reaching raptures, revolving in such waves as mirrored his senses and made a mockery of impossibilities. He watched how the reeling leviathans embraced, and he saw how they wantonly tumbled together, mounting or falling up one upon the other, and then up and over again the other way, rolling with the wind, with gushing sighs and lascivious laughter, with such abandon as befits abounding beings. He learned from the clouds to make his own songs in his languid musings. He discovered secrets and vast regions of adventure in the reaching skies. And as the earth at his back rumbled in symphony with its companion heights, he discovered how to sing with the winds and to sweetly tremble with the grass. The ceiling is pushed back from the floor, and then another line, ground in the radiant swirl. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for coming. Give us some more love, please. Claire Akmondo, are you going to read today, ma'am? Are you going to read a poem or two to us today, please? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Was that a thumbs up? I thought that was a thumbs up, wasn't it? Okay, we got you down. Thank you, Claire. Cheryl Lateef, are you reading today? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Send me a signal. Whistle. Semaphore. Only the Navy veterans know what that is.
I'm just going to listen today, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate you coming. All right. So Dr. Succinct is up next, and when he writes poetry, he says a very few words that weigh a ton, maybe 2 tons, and I call him Dr. Succinct. Please welcome Eduardo Duran. Okay, here we go.
Oh, why? Oh, why did you light in my heart? Why did you fill it with visions of hope, love, and joy? Why did you think it was merely a plaything to be discarded when you were born? Oh, why was I so blind? Why couldn't I see your love for the sham it truly was? Why did I settle for so much less than I deserved when I was worthy of so much more? What could have enticed me into your web of deceit? Why were your honey-tinged words so appealing? What prevented me from seeing the hideous reality behind your exquisite facade? Oh, why was I such a fool? Why did I let your pretty face make believe your every word? Superficial, hollow words of love that conceal the true venom that excludes from your every action. A moment. When I dream, I see your face as it was the last time I saw you. When we held each other close, shielding ourselves from the world. Now, as some realities batter at my soul, mercilessly, I long for the comfort of hearing my name whispered by a soft melodic voice. It might be, at very least, more bearable if for a moment I could have you in my arms and feel the rhythm of your heart as a counter melody upon it. If I could see one more time the joy in your eyes, your smile once more, it would lighten the burden I carry as I traverse upon the murky path before me. And one more. Sometimes I just want to lose myself in a dark corner, to be unseen, unheard, untouched, unmoved. At times, I just want to shrink away into the darkness, away from all responsibilities, suffering, maladies. But I know that that would be a half a life. And even when I face my problems on my own, I know, in reality, I'm not alone.
Thank you, Eduardo. Sometimes I just want to lose myself in a dark corner. Alfred and I were talking about that sometimes we just walk away from the computer, we walk away from the news, we walk away from texts. When our bosses can email us on the weekend and we never get away from work and we never find a place or a space where we can enjoy our family, or we can just go out and walk by the ocean or something like that. But we have to push away sometimes. And the corporate world is always about getting things done, but the human world is about sometimes we have to leave things undone so we can be human beings. Thank you, Eduardo. So, I've been to this man's house several times. He has gatherings of musicians over there, and they humor me because I'm the poet. They will back me up on a poem and play their instruments, and they're all very, very talented, as he is. He's talented with spoken word. He's talented with just about everything he can carry that's musical. You heard him play already, but now he's going to read a different kind of a poem that he writes. This is Nathan Weedmore.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as Jim indicated, this is kind of a departure for me. You probably know me from poetry of grief and and political poetry, but I'm going to attempt something a bit more humorous. Humorous. Or at least an attempt to be humorous. So I should explain this a little bit. How this came about was Anita, my wife, was playing at this happy hour once a month online that one of our friends started during COVID. And she started doing this thing where she would have guest the composer and she would play different pieces and people would try to, and they're all like thematic, like they're all started with like the letter L, say, and it was across all kinds of music. And so the host had heard me tell a couple of really bad puns, COVID jokes, assuming the personality of being COVID, like what's the COVID's favorite state, Illinois, just, real groaners like that. What's COVID's favorite rapper? COVID-y sense, things like that. But so I started imagining doing this routine, but it never happened. Although I sort of collected it in my head, and I was going to make this costume, like a helmet out of a beach ball, paper mache, glue some toilet paper rolls to it, stick some pom-pom type material in the ends, paint it, So I'm asking you to imagine me wearing that, because that will help. The absurdity might help this poem a little bit. Okay, this is called The COVID Kid at the Poetry Reading. When I'm doing stand-up, they call me the COVID kid. Or should I say doing lie down? That's a line that usually kills. But I can see, by the looks of apprehension, you've heard gossip about me. Yes, people think I'm a little wild, a little out of control, a little batty. And there's some truth to that, I admit. I can't help it. I like to party with either party, Dems, Repubs, Indies. I'm just a real people person. I can really bond with you, whatever your background. Listen, I've got a bad rap, but if you give me a chance, you'll find my personality infectious. Once you get to know me, I promise, I'll grow on you. Hey, after this poetry reading, let's go down to Joe's bar and get crazy. Let's form a conga line and let's dance, slow dance cheek to cheek. Jim's buying. Yeah, buying rounds for everyone. Okay, I see I'm making everyone a little nervous, especially tonight's host, but I've always liked a host. And if any of you want to host, I'll help you out. Look, I know I'm a little kinky. Sure, I like threesomes, foursomes, 33 sums, 3,003 sums. I told you I'm a little freaky. Let me dial it back a little. I see I have alarmed you, but I like church too. I never miss a service, and I'm for all denominations, all faiths. But I have to tell you, I prefer those big churches where they get into a frenzy inside, everyone hanging on to each other, speaking in tongues, nobody wearing masks. Now that's freedom, baby. That's America. Nobody tells us what to do. It's a grave concern for me. Shake that rattlesnake. You know, the Donald is really hated, but I don't understand why. I owe him a lot. He got me my start. When I first got to this country, he told everyone not to be afraid of me. He introduced me to lots of his friends. And the thing is, I really got to know him. We were really close. I really got into him. I stayed with him for at least 2 weeks. I mean, I heard the rumors that he snorted Adderall and experimented with stuff. And then he started using some really hard drugs. I couldn't handle it. I had to leave. Though he'll always have a soft spot in my heart. I hope he has a soft spot in his from knowing me. I hope he chokes up when he thinks of me. But I had to move on, to spread my wings. The thing is, in the trials and tests of life, I want to influence people in a positive way. I've had a rebound recently. I know a lot of movie stars. I've got a new act. My work has gone viral. Now I'm all about the Delta blues and all its variants. Evidently, I'm noticing I'm not a poet. So let me tell a joke instead. 6 viruses walk into a dispensary. H1N1 tells the pigeon-speaking bud tender, I'll have my 3rd joint, but who's counting? The virus from Africa says, I'll have an Ebola of what he's having. The coronavirus says, I have a bad cough, I'll have an edible. The SARS virus says, something that makes me feel sarcastic. The rabies virus says, something quick, I'm foaming at the mouth. The influenza virus left without pain. The bud tender said, wow, he really flew. All right, I admit, there's something that's just not really funny about my routine. And if you laughed at any of this tasteless drivel, you're sick. Of course, that just means you get me. Let's just unwind this up. I'm ready to start my new career. I'm going to sing the blues from now on over and over again. Thanks to those who aren't needling, I'm not relinquishing the stage. The COVID kid is never going away. Thank you for indulging.
A line of your poem, I added a line of mine. Shake that rattlesnake, move that tongue away from your cheek. That's Nathan Weemark. Are you ready for the feature?
Yes. Woo, feature.
Drove all the way from Santee. Are you ready for the feature?
Woo.
Yeah. So let me read a couple things that I wrote about her. Actually, she wrote them about herself. Deborah Ramos, the San Diego native. Come on, here. Don't go away, Grandma. She was influenced by grassroots activism and participated in setting railroad tracks on fire to stop a train from transporting weapons to the military bases. She continues to voice her protests and passion through her poetry and art. Pre-pandemic, she hosted readings at the Poetry Bench. Can we get some love for the Poetry Bench, please? International reading. And for the last year has hosted her open mic on Zoom, featuring poets from across the globe. Deborah's creative life includes traveling, writing, art, and exploring photography. And in the last month, she's been helping to try and get the park, the Friendship Park, open down in by the Playas, where the border fence separates San Diego from Tijuana. And the first event, she's been to 3 events now. And the first event that she went to, nobody showed up except she and I. And so we did our own reading on the seawall. And I was so impressed with her poem. She read a series of poems. I was so impressed with her poems. I think the seagulls were listening. That's how strong her poetry is. And so we called her Grandma, but it says right here, it's Deborah Ramos. Can we give her some love, please?
Testing, test. Justine and Josh are here. Testing, giving me. Hi, Zoom people. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm honored to be on the stage as a feature. Jim, usually I'm in the audience and I know who he's reading. All right, so I'm just gonna get right through.
Yes.
I write about roadkill, primal desires, ancient love stories, and my cats. And so I'm just gonna give you a little bit of everything, take you on the journey. Okay. I honor the vulva today. Sitting in the lobby reading a smutty romance novel my cousin gave me for Christmas. All the parts are squeaky clean, ready for inspection. Relaxed thighs draped with sterile cotton allow light and cold steel to pry open the gateway to insatiable secrets. A place where my magic, now deeply hidden, remembers moon times, the lunar sun dance, when sacrificial blood once stained the parched earth. Okay. This is a poem about a camping trip. It's called Night Bed. Come close. Let me splatter you with my primal perfume. Bodies fused together, the taste soaks into your dripping chocolate skin. Our echoes arouse the sleeping meadow, ears perk from their night beds. Sticky embraces smolder into dreaming. If Jesus was a chocolate bar of bliss, I would baptize my body with the sacred blood of ruby caramel. My fingers would trace a honey road into his holy mouth until he licked them clean. I would cocoon around the amber pleasure and let my sins melt into the confectionery of his hands. I think my friend Mary is here. Mary, I think you remember this. Reckless seduction. I sauntered in with wine buds, tight jeans, and a pink Angora sweater, a California girl perched on a bar stool in a dim corner of Seattle. A shot of tequila and Tabasco burned my throat. The air, heavy with smoke, vibrated with retro rock and roll. I flirted with freedom and begged the dark edges to become my refuge. But she found me, despite my attempts to escape her callous winter. Hands reaching deep in my back pockets, she pulled me away from the cowboy with the sad eyes, his stories spilling on the scuffed floor. She spelled my name in the steam of whiskey breath and surrendered her hardened heart. Seduced again by the familiar dance of forgiveness, the final sweep of mercy across the floor, my soul cocooned by the hurricane of this moonless night.
Beautiful.
Lips sugared in coral rose bring the cocktail cigarettes and inhales the honeydew night. Pry me open like a wishbone until the blush floods between my legs. Follow me like prayer beads with your dark confession. The holy communion of skin and sweat smolders in secret tunnels, leaving our smiles wet and weary. This next poem I wrote about a trip that I took to Four Corners with my son Josh. And we went to see the cliff dwellings in Mesa Verde. And the power and the energy and the spirit there was just gripping. And I kept imagining when I was looking at those cliff dwellings of the life that was going on down there and the fires and the rituals. So this is about that, of the Anasazi people. It's called Heart in the Canyon. Vanishing moons circle the mesa. Wild rose sweetens the parched canyon. As the saffron morning rises, a woven bed opens to invoke the dreamy dawn. Sun-drenched adobe walls shade the graffiti etched into sandstone. Yucca sandals pad along a windswept trail. Twisted junipers brush against sweat-soaked skin. Honey gold maidens dance in the central plaza, cleansed in songs made of corn and pollen. Ravens, red stones, heat cooking baskets, hot coals, roast pinyon nuts and figs. Deep in the Kiva womb, Kachina spirits tell stories. Ancestors emerge from the smoke blackened edge of creation. Rumbling clouds push across the oceanic sky, leaving the cliff palace empty and scorched. The children of summer abandon the dry earth to follow the fertile trail of the Serpent River and rebuild the stained layers of ancient seas. Yeah, there's several theories on why those people abandoned their cliff dwellings. Now I'm moving into the cat poem portion of the reading. Endless dreaming. Let me slumber like a cat and fall into a milky way of dreaming. I stretch across a blanket of savannas, whiskers touch new hemispheres. Behind shuddering eyelids, I am reborn in the temple of Bastet. I am a golden spotted queen, pampered by Cleopatra and fed sacred nuggets of mice. No longer tethered to the earth, I escape into the abyss of wild hunts beneath the red desert of cloudless sky. This next poem is about a cat we had, Hunter. We adopted him from the shelter, and he was a feral cat. And he was the hissiest, most beautiful cat. Right? And he lived to be almost 20 years old. This is called Your Light Seeps Back In. You arch before me, warrior stance, fur erect, glaring candle eyes, guttural serpent hiss. I hate you. I love you. Confusion impairs my senses. If you were taken by the wild dingoes that haunt our streets, what would I miss? Not your spiked claws slashing at my offering hand. Not your gnashing coffin nail teeth sinking into my leg flesh. Never the endless washing of urine-soaked cushions and rugs to which you shred and claim ownership. And especially not the cold grass hairballs you hurl in the most unavoidable places. It's your invisible edges, your silent lean against my ankles, your intoxicating purr of approval that pulls me into the dysfunctional loop of the meeting. I am drawn to your schizoaffective charm like a moth circling fire.
Yes.
Yeah. How to make a bed. Crisp new sheets, Egyptian cotton, 400 thread count, fresh from its wrapping, reveals a faint pattern of square folds. Bottom sheet spreads across the mattress, carefully tucked around the corners like a bed condom. Top sheet snaps open, catches the air, and parachutes down, down, down. A tiger-striped tail snakes beneath the percale tent. Hands smooth comforter edge to edge, quilted stitches line up in tidy rows. The crouching figure cloaked within the darkened air slips over the rim. The world is flat once more. Okay. Right. And now I'm moving into the roadkill portion of the reading. I mean, what is a poetry reading without some poems about roadkill? All true stories. Death waits in front of my house. I hoped it wasn't my possum, limp on the asphalt, gaping mouth, empty paws, grasping death. My nightly nomad stays hidden behind water heaters, beneath houses, between fences. She waits with possum patience to safely descend upon the compost, rich grapes and bananas. I wore my garden gloves to pick her up by the tail, but cars never stopped. They only saw a crazy old lady running across the road holding a dangling, lifeless possum. I had to save her from the common ending. Possum parts spread for a block. There was a quiet ceremony today. The only sound was earth's brittle needles and bark being shoveled aside, a shallow grave in the thirsty California soil. The next poem is about a time when I saw a red-tailed hawk dead on the side of the freeway, and his wing was just flapping in the wind. And every time I passed that beautiful bird, I thought, man, I gotta scrape that bird off the side of the road. I just did not want that bird to rot on the side of the road. So I got my son Josh, who was in high school at the time, and tucked him in coming with me. We grabbed a shoebox, and cornmeal, tobacco, sage, and that's what we did. This is called Shaman's Toolbox. Nocturnal victim of russet and ivory fuses to the asphalt as cars rush past the parallel universe. Sacred tools at my side, gloves, newspaper, and a garden trowel. I kneel on the blistering gravel, squeezing the sun from my eyes. A carnivorous beak, still, eyes fixed in the death stare. With prayer and intention, I wrap the fallen messenger in a shroud of Sunday funnies. Flesh beetles drop from frayed edges. Hidden in the safety of a Steve Madden shoebox, cornmeal and tobacco powder the beauty of decay, silence. A pyramid of Precambrian rocks holds the spirit deep in the arms of a dry California hillside. Beneath the unforgiving shade of yarrow and sagebrush, heat blows across my face, and I wipe the grieving sweat that stings my eyes. And not too far from that red-tailed hawk, there was a beautiful white owl, like 20 feet from that bird. So we scraped them both off the side of the freeway and we sent them on their way.
Bravo, bravo.
Yeah. So this is a love story I wrote when I was working on an art piece. I was painting a dragon. So I don't know, it's kind of a little fantasy. Love everlasting. She begs him to save her, thin with hope, hands knotted, hair twisted into ropes of silver. She summons him closer to sneak past the reptilian tail that spirals the castle keep. Pearly scales and ivory claws line the damp stairway. Weeping, she vanishes to her chamber to avoid the icy stare of the priestly guardian. Banished from the abyss of fire, the basilisk is burdened for eternity to guard its delicate treasure. Metallic scales are turned to granite. Jeweled wings melt into walls. With crimson eyes fixed upon her, the mighty serpent king has become the fortified tower. Beaten by the decades, her dark warrior returns to pierce the draconian heart and reclaim his divine angel. The ghostly citadel stands before him, vines rooted to walls, filling cracks the way dawn fills shadows. Armed with bone and steel, the willing hero circles the fusion of reptile and stone and makes the ascent. Smoke fills his lungs, leathery walls breathe at his back. Startled, the beast casts his gaze toward the intruder. The fatal glance ends the assault, and the deadly silence lifts. Cloaked in faded silk, she finds her lover, heart barely beating beneath his marbled skin, frozen in perpetual rescue. She coils around her statue warrior, welcomes him sweetly, the flesh of her heart pressed against the cold stone, his eternally embraced. Because you love me, preserve me. Mummify me in the way of the crocodile king. Sew my death linens with gold thread. Decorate my temple with turquoise and emeralds. Paint my naked robe in tattoos of hummingbirds and translucent winged butterflies. Perfume my resting hair with a wax comb of lotus nectar. Anoint my soul in holy water. Let me return to the womb of the earth, to the sacred ocean that gave birth to me. Set me free to wander into the unfolding life which comes after. The echo that startles your dreams will be me, drumming the ancient rhythms of the great mothers in the silver moon palace. So this is, next poem is the poem I was inspired to write when I was doing the events with Jim at the border, and in hopes to urge the Border Patrol to reopen Friendship Park. It's been closed for over, what, 600 days? 600 days, while everything else is still open. This is called Where Californias Meet. Feeding our loved ones is a sacred act, even when hands and food pass the chain link under the scrutinous stare of La Migra. Communal gathering at a border garden remains shut down while Walmart sells Halloween costumes and candy corn. Even garbage flows freely across two sides of the Pacific Ocean, while families can't share a simple meal in the space between two cultures, two countries. Sidewalk cafes are open. Napkins crisp, glasses full, but this Chisholm, this third nation, has no place at the table. Let's transcend the straddling fence to offer bread, water, esperanza. And together we'll say grace and bless the hands that prepare the sacred ground on the sandy soil of Friendship Park. My last piece, and this is about a night in 1972 when I joined a group of radical activists to go to Del Mar and set the railroad tracks on fire, to stop the train from bringing weapons of war to the military bases. This is called Peace Did Not Come. The night before the revolution, we listened to Dylan. His nasal protest poetry washed across the walls in neon flashes. The night before the revolution, we got high and thought peace would come if we stopped the train bringing weapons of war. The night of the revolution, we put on moccasins, war paint, braided our hair into ropes of courage, and began our silent march through the tracks. Torches set the moon on fire. We rejoice in the reflection of our war, a wheezing blaze of railroad ties. 200 deputies came to stop the resistance. We pulled each other into dark alleys and foggy yards while comrades were taken, Miranda rights violated. But the absence of war was not fulfilled. Soldier boys kept dying in muddy jungles. Napalm babies still ran naked down dirt roads. Young widows still held neatly folded flags on their laps. Mothers twisted their hands and hearts of grief. So we went back to our vans and our camps to get ready for the next underground revolution. We passed the pipes, the love, the hope, and got lost in the neon flashes of Dylan. That's my time. Okay, you enjoyed what you heard. I have my chapbooks from the Earth and Drum of My Body available. And I also have little mini booklets that I made. They're hand bound. I have 3 series, the Roadkill series, the Ocean series, and the Cat series. And the covers are made with African art hand cast paper that I like to use in my art projects. And there's some covers over there that are made with giraffe dung and elephant dung and savanna grasses and dung beetle dirt. But they're there for donations, $3, $4, whatever. So that's it. That's my time. Thank you, Jim.
Deborah Ramos. It's a little unnerving when a grandma looks at you and says dung beetle dirt, you know? So please, Jimmy Collins taught me, we support our artists around here. Over on the table, you have people who have published CDs and books, so please avail yourself to those. Our feature from last month has her advertisement over there about her book. Remember, she's a refugee from Venezuela who got in trouble with the government there because of her activism. And can we give a little bit more love for Deborah Ramos, please? Let me see what I need to say here. John Wessick, Cheryl Lateef, who else? Julio, please put your books and how to order your books in the chat, because we're gonna hang out after this is all over. We're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk to each other, we're gonna get some more coffee and stuff from Frank. If you wanna have some food, you can do that too. And so people can come up and look in the chat and find out how to order your books. And so we wanna remember to support each other, that this is community, this is a village. And these people are very, very talented who have also published, all right? And let me see, did you say you wanted to make an announcement? I forget. No, okay. All right, so are you ready for some more poetry? Me too. This lady has come to a lot of my workshops. She's in the MFA program in poetry now in San Diego State. She's quite a storyteller and quite an activist in her own life. She's a grandma as well. This is Barbara Huntington on Zoom.
And just as you started to introduce me, my dog started barking her head off. So I hope that's not going to interfere. I have two poems today. The first one's called Algal Pool. There was a time you finally fought through algal pools of depression, expelled last bubbles of estivation from the muddy bottom, swam upward to sip fresh air above the surface, revisited your life, the rare times your mind emptied, and now in strength's decline, tested, grasped, until masked and alone, you didn't recognize yourself, child who excelled and basked in plays, but lived in fear of being discovered deficient, became imperfect purposely, made out to avoid making conversation, married early before her deceit could be discovered. At last aged, spouse dead, granted time to travel, ready to journey, only to be halted by plague's introspection. Now you scrutinize solecisms, vow to travel contradictory paths because they are alien. Vainly dream through the dissimilitude, you will at last uncover your authentic, ecstatic self. And the second one is kind of a different form than I usually use. Quilt and River. 1. A patchwork quilt. A flowing river. Both have been done and no less powerful for it. The quilt begun before life. Strong stitches of genes and tradition, patches sewn in clumsily in childhood, rips, spills, self-created, not. Bitter times of tearing out stitches and examining patches, attempts to sew them imperfectly back in, inability to pull out all. Remnants of memories wanted and wanted gone, and yet the pieces somehow become a raft on that unoversung river, tearing and throwing patches and watching them in the torrent or caught in tiny stagnant pools of what ifs. You know they must merge, and you know they will sink under the silt and seek to escape stagnation. So in something promising, tear out pain. 2. First, there is the font, the uterus, the source of the river, a combination of genes that have never combined that way before, never interacted with that mother, the fluids, the blood, the chemicals, the expansion, cold, pain, dim, red to bright light. And this thing, this you emerges, begins as the flow, and the quilt touches the new skin. The quilt, parts sewn so tight they will not unravel through this 100 years or the next. Patches unequal in quality and texture and color and staying power with new to be added. The flow onward, onward, no way to escape back to that warm softness, loves and losses, and the mistakes, especially the mistakes that rend and tear the quilt, and sometimes you can cut them out to throw them in the river and they disappear in the foam or float in that eddy you are caught in, or sink in the slime of trying to forget, and the river flows on and the quilt is frayed, stronger in some patches, soft or stiff materials that never fit the pattern, but still the pattern, chaotic in the collection, and there's now more urgent rushing, flowing, upswelling, and I can smell the salt air and sense the end, genes, patches, molecules, atoms coming together, tearing apart, floating, sinking, quilt, river. That's it.
More love for Barbara, please. Barbara Huntington. When this COVID clears up, I hope she'll give you permission to workshop at her gallery home. She lives in her art gallery home. So from Grandma's poem, Grandma Deborah, lips sugared in coral rose. That was real nice. And then wild rose sweetens the parched canvas, and from Barbara Huntington, sometimes mistakes, sometimes you can cut them out and throw them in the river. I think that we have some politicians we can do that with, I think. So, everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Still got energy? All right, cool. Me too. And so, Maria Calhoun, are you still there? I don't know you, but. Oh, Maria, you're there. I'm so embarrassed. So this is Maria Calhoun, and I like the way she writes. Here she comes.
So few faces are familiar with a couple poems that I read before, but you guys haven't heard them, so. Hi, everybody. Sorry. Okay, this one's called Kiss. My heart beats as I see that look upon your eyes, the lust inside them imploring me to lean in for a kiss. I oblige. As our lips touch, I sense it all over my body, their most precious dance. Our tongues gently twirling with lust and need. One hand on my neck, the other on my lower back, pulling me closer to you. The soft groan escapes your throat and it radiates vibrations all over my body. Then I open my eyes to see yours. And suddenly I realize it's all just a distant memory. I wasn't gonna read this one, but Julio read a poem in Spanish, so I'm gonna read a poem in Spanish.
Yeah.
And also, thank you for your activism on the wall. We need more people like you in this world. Thank you. Fácil. Qué fácil sería decirte que te amo. Decir cuánto te extraño y cuánto te deseo. Qué fácil sería decirte que te necesito, decir que mi vida no es nada sin ti, o lo vacía que se siente. Qué fácil sería demostrar lo mucho que te quiero, pero al fin, ¿para qué? Palabras vacías igual que mi corazón. Si tú no puedes darme a mí lo mismo, ¿de qué sirve? And this is called Broken Record. I'm a fool, I love you. The pain inside me burns more than smoking this cigarette. It burns my heart and slowly dissolves my soul. The only relief is the high that the mere sight of you gives me. You acknowledge me with such finesse and I can breathe once again. The way you make my heart pound amidst echoes throughout my body, sends tingles down my spine, causes euphoria, nirvana. Then you fade away back into the dark abyss. Your unpredictable heart teasing me yet again with your predictable actions, causing the burn to return, fighting not to break again, becoming resilient, hanging on by a thread, everything going well. Then I need my high again. And we start at the beginning. I'm a fool. I love you.
Let's give Maria some more love, please. We want more young people like you to come, and please come back. That's really good stuff.
I already changed my shifts. I'm home every second Sunday now.
That's great. Thank you very much. We want to hear your stuff again. So, a Navy veteran like myself, a man who started coming at Cafe Cabaret, I believe, started showing up over there. Was it here where you started coming? So it was here, and he's been coming ever since. One of the things that he's got going on is a grandson, who's now on active duty, and we thank your grandson for serving our country as well. This is David Legenhorst.
Thank you, Jim. My grandson Ryan is in Kuwait right now. Send him some good thoughts, okay? This is October, so just a couple October things. On the night of All Hallows Eve, spirits are freed from the grave. For those who walk alone that night, are you crazy or are you brave? Those ghosts just want to take your soul. So not a major problem. It's eternity by the fire, while Satan says, we got him. Don't forget your bottled water. Think marshmallows and chocolate. Some aloe for your stinging skin. Having wings is not your lot. Forever seems a long, long time, but just take it day by day. Remember all those tricks and treats? Now the goblins have their say. This one was written by some English guy, but it's also from, okay? Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Fillet of a fetty snake in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of a newt, toe of a frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and howler's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth, boil and bubble. Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Cool it with a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good. Yes. Thank you, Bill.
Whoever that was. Well done.
I seem to think that my algebra and statistics professor fitted that last description. Thank you. For those of you that aren't good at math, you will relate to that. So, but we only have a little bit of time left, a few poets left. Let me remind you that October 15th is the deadline to submit your poems to the San Diego Poetry Annual. And we need your voices to be published. There's no one in here who is not publishable. Your poems are very strong. And then don't forget that the Cowett contest is also has a deadline October 15th. And the first prize, if you win, is $1,000. And one of the things that I like about that is it's a contest named after Steve Cowett, who was my mentor for about 30 years, and he passed away about 5 years ago. So if you go into Poets and Writers, you Google Poets and Writers, and you bring that up on your home computer, you'll find at the back of that magazine contests that they're asking for submissions, and you can win $1,000, $500 for one poem. And that's not a bad pay rate. And there's nobody in here who doesn't really qualify for entering that kind of contest. You're all very, very talented, and I'm grateful that you're here. You make my writing better. Thank you. So he doesn't sound like he's from Boston, but he lives there. He used to do a thing called Gennaro Poetry at an ice cream store in Old Town. And then he moved back to Boston because he's a real Zen student. This is John Wessick.
Hi, Jim. Thank you. I put links for both the San Diego Poetry Annual and the Cowett Contest in the chat for those of you who are on Zoom. If you're not on Zoom, well, I guess you'll have to find it yourself. I recently had some surgery that affected the nerves in my face and my voice a little bit. And so here are a couple poems about that. I took a tumor out of my neck. It was benign, so there's nothing really too much to worry about there. My tumor recited poetry at open mics from Britain to Australia. Its tongue fluid as quicksilver, it would shout for emphasis or draw the audience in with a whisper. Although benign, the MRI showed it eyeing an AR-15. It's close to your facial nerves, the surgeon says, but we'd better cut it out. On its last feature, my tumor used the microphone once held by Carolyn Forche, Martine Espada, and Naomi Shihab Nye. Now my tumor sits in a test tube, and my mouth is full of glaciers. Numbed lips struggle to wrap around words while somewhere in a hospital basement, after all the centrifuges have gone still, a clump of mutant cells sings. Okay, one more for you, a little flash fiction piece. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I looked both ways before entering, except for a busker with a guitar. Only the usual students, hipsters, and homeless treaded the Cambridge sidewalks. The bank's foyer was empty except for two brushed steel cash machines. Fluorescent lights cast a purplish glow over the counter and the paper receipt someone had left behind. I was probably imagining things. Satisfied, I slid my bank card into the slot. My minor surgery had gone well. I didn't even need the Percocet for the pain, so I flushed them down the toilet without a thought about what the opioids did to the sea creatures downstream. To celebrate, I was going to hit the raw bar at the Little Donkey before my improv class. The restaurant knew how to do it right. King crab, little neck clams, oysters on the half shell, and tuna tartare. I could almost smell it. The machine beeped and I took my cash. Give me your money. A mugger with a gurgling voice stuck something sharp in my back. It was hard to tell, but the weapon seemed to have 2 points. The lobby behind locked glass doors was empty, so no help was likely to come from the bank staff. If I pivoted, swept my arm, and applied a wrist lock, I might disable the mugger, but it would be risky. $100 wasn't worth a trip to the emergency room. I handed over the cash. The door banged as my attacker fled. I turned in time to see an SUV slam on the brakes to avoid plowing into a 6-foot lobster dashing across Massachusetts Avenue. His shell was bluish green, and each of his legs ended in Asics running shoes. The half-dozen guys beatboxing for tips outside the liquor store paid the larcenous crustacean no mind as he scrambled down the concrete steps to the T station. Yep, we've seen an uptick in robberies by sea creatures lately, Officer Brimley said. He had unkempt hair, a toothbrush mustache, and a belly that hung over his gun belt. A blob of cocktail sauce shaped like a sea urchin stained his khaki shirt. The police station was empty except for the two of us. Wanted posters of a gooey duck with gang tattoos and a shark with teeth rotted by meth hung on the poster board. People been flushing opioids down a toilet. Fish get a taste for it and have to steal to support their habit. Crustaceans are the worst. Hell, the DEA just seized 1,000 kilos of Mexican brown at the aquarium, but it didn't make a dent. Drug runners smuggle it in bluefin tuna. Your money's long gone by now. Is there anything I can do to protect myself? I asked. I got a little something here. Officer Brimley lowered his voice and leaned close. Old Bay Magnum. A few blasts of this will stop a giant squid at 30 paces. He handed me the canister. Keep quiet about this. Damn do-gooders on Beacon Hill want to limit civilians to drawn butter and tartar sauce, as if that'll do you any good. And that's it for me. Thanks, everybody.
John, that last piece reminded me when I used to do mushrooms and all that stuff. So thank you. That whole flashback was really important. That's John Wessick. Give us more love, please. Beautiful. So I was told that there is a poet on Zoom named Loretta. who might read to us. Loretta, I don't know you, but would you like to grace the mic with us today? Unmute yourself, please. Loretta Walker.
Loretta's amazing. She was my teacher.
I know you didn't fall asleep on that last poem. So we'll give her some space. And Claire, Claire has come to a lot of my workshops, and she's an amazing, amazing writer. And I've always appreciated your support at the events that we do. This is Claire Accomando. Go ahead, Claire.
Hi. I have two pieces. This is called $1 Million. Not long ago, the door stayed open. Therapists, caregivers, one with the voice of Sinatra from his back pocket. Hospice nurses. I would have given $1 million for 15 minutes of quiet and solitude. Tonight, through the screen door, I hear an ant crawl up the naked trunk of the eucalyptus tree. The other one is called Lizard, Lizard on the Wall. Lizard, lizard, velcroed to the wall of the old chapel. You mimic colors of the Japanese potter, beach kelp, glazed shimmer, teal blue streak down your detachable tail. Lizard, lizard, glistening in the sun-baked stucco, slithering out of cracks and crevices. Reptilian sniper of flying insects, your vigilant eyes dot east and west. Lizard, lizard with flies in your gizzard. Are you thumbing your tongue at me? Have you done push-ups on the bell tower? Tell me, wise lizard, is there life after death? Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Always good to see you. So I was just told that Loretta had her hand up. Loretta, can you unmute yourself? Loretta Walker, and please read a couple of poems to us.
I don't think she's raising her hand. I think the mouse is hovering over her name. Oh,
Okay, I guess that's true too. So
sorry.
you did not waste any of my time today. I love the way you have written and come up to this microphone and grace the mic, each one of you. Can we give some more love for Grandma Deborah Ramos? This morning, I woke up, my eyes weren't open yet, and this poem whispered to me, and it said, spoken word flames from cosmic uncertainty, fluffing, Ayn Rand and Rand Paul. And I jumped up and I ran to the computer. I stubbed my toe on the way there because I wasn't fully awake yet. And I wrote this poem and I worked on it for about 3 hours this morning. So this is about 2 or 3 drafts. And I asked Nathan, I sent the poem to Nathan and I asked him if he would help me to end our time together today, unless you want to hang out and talk to different poets and stuff. Unless you want to look in the chat room and see where to buy some of this literature. And so we got a little group participation at this point. I'm a performance poet. And so when I say take, you say her back. Let's try that on and see if that works. Take her back. Take her back. Take her back. Oh, that's going to work really well. So now you know what part of the poem that's going to happen in. And I'm going to ask Nathan if he would unmute himself, and let's start with whatever musical instrument he's going to play for us and help me with my poem. Open word flames from cosmic uncertainty, fluffing Ayn Rand, Rand Paul, fluffing dishonorable, unprecedented 45. Hey man, we vets are not suckers. We don't sucker women like you do. Fluffing the dishonorable congressional smutty mouth sex trafficker from Florida, the rotten peach Georgia witch, in tuck, fatty neck male bitch, who ends the starvation asphyxiation of our seventh generation to come. Poetry, power, fluffing, white sport, white kids who shoot sweet classmates of fluffing white cops who shoot unarmed black human beings every 7 days or less in America. Fluffing mounted white goons who horsewhip black brothers and sisters with reins as these human beings of color stand in the Rio Grande, washing starvation dust from Haiti. Poetry, power demands food station. Vaccine stations, welcoming stations instead of racist actions for a people poor and oppressed. Doesn't anyone listen to Michael Moore? Joy Harjo, Dave Chappelle, Trevor Noah, June Jordan, Stephen Colbert, Reggie Gaines, Jeff Myers, James Baldwin, Jimmy Santiago Baca, Spike Lee, Mother Earth. The Eskimos have warned the ice cap is melting for 30 years. Why? Because of Ancient Orange. You won't wear a mask, won't get a vaccine, and are responsible for the Morph Monster Delta. We don't fluff you. You are a fellow American. You are addicted to religion. That America is about one color of skin. No, it's not. You fluff your addiction to delusional lies of those who would let your family starve or drown in debt while they buy $5,000 lampshade. Money they stole from you because they blocked living wage. Their lies have you trailing a huge stars and stripes from your pickup truck as you pick up, slander, and swallow holes and inflate your flag and your ego, lies, misinformation, and made your road apple. Oh, poets. We poets don't want you to die. Poets don't want children to shoot other children. Poets don't want white cops to shoot unarmed black citizens. Everyone gets to sit at the table of peace. Everyone, not just one poet. Poets don't want anyone's elders or children to die from COVID. This poem is to remind you that the flag you fly, believing the lie that the election was rigged, is our flag too. The poets always remind. The poets always warn. The poets always show and tell. The flag is our flag too. Yes. And we poets stand right here and take her back. I say take, you say back. Take her back. Take her back. Take her back. So much. She's the flag of the people. Our people who are equal. Respect and defend the Constitution. So in this poem, we take back our flag. We fly that flag in our hearts and minds, and we wish no child have an empty stomach as they toss and turn hungry. When you fly that flag, you share it with all Americans who love this great country of love and respect, love, and heart. And whose strength comes from immigrants of all cultures, all religions, all this flag, this poem is your poem.
like it. Spoken word flames from cosmic certainty, nothing. Thank you. Nathan Wiedmark. Wait for one of those phone calls. Come on over, the musicians are here. I waited for that call. All right. So again, we are all finished with poetry today. Again, if you have somebody you want to talk to, if you want to find out about how to build a really cool website, you know, he's going to be mad at me because he didn't want any announcement. Talk to this man right here. He builds websites, and I just built 2 for me, 1 for Joe Melange. And he's just amazing. And thank you. Can we give Al some love for being our Zoom master today? I don't know if you've ever been into an event where the Zoom bombers come in. They're pretty nasty folks. And he guards us and makes sure we stay safe. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Always good to see you. So have some more coffee, tea, wine, beer, food. I love you. And I'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
So I'm gonna send this to you. Because they do the public readings.
Don, I hope you're feeling better.
Readings are more people who don't want to hear this.
Sounded okay.
All this shit.
Okay, good.
They need to hear this, they can get a vaccine and stop fucking around.
Well, nice to see you again, Barbara. Enjoyed your stuff. Nathan, for real. Take care.
Bye-bye.
I know.
That's why I had to put that thing about the election wasn't really. You believe in that? That guy Cliff, that guy Trevor, those has to go talk to some people. He's amazing. He's so fucking funny. Because so you should read the transcript, right? Did you read the transcript? No, but we should read the transcript. But you didn't read the transcript, and it's like, and it hits him like.
It was really short. Did you read it? It was only, it was like a page.
Yeah.
It wasn't long.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really, he's good. Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And, you know, there's a lack of argument. It's really easy to cook. It's not rocket science. Most of the time, people.
The real
Yeah.
And that's cool, like, man, I thought of that so often. And so do you mind hanging out a little bit? And if people want to see what's on the chat, then we can shave it. You look tired. They jazzed me up. I made sure I couldn't get to sleep till about 3 o'clock, so I let myself sleep till 10. And then that poem woke me up, and I worked on that poem. I said 3 hours, probably a couple hours. I had to be here, and I didn't want to. I wanted to be here at 1 o'clock, so I said I'd be here at 1 o'clock.
Oh, you've been right. If you were calling one,
No,
you don't have
no.
Back then, it was like.
Yes. When you do it.
I have to do that. I have to do that. You know, when I was a young man, I used a lot of people. I just refused to do that. You
Yeah.
know, quit out on the drugs. I'm still looking for free my boy.
I always tell my son,
Why
I'm
are you
like,
cheating?
you are able to express yourself.
I'm not gonna do that to you.
You-
I hope. That's my intention.
Yeah.
Well, you shouted me down once. Let's see what happens next time. You wouldn't take any money last time. I don't forget what it was for.
And then I was able to.
Oh, you wouldn't let me pay for booze. You bought me booze. That's what it was. Yeah, well, boy, I tell you what, you've made so much happen for me over, how long now? 2 years? 2 years? Well, first, not letting me drop out of the class. I appreciate the shit out of that, because I just was convinced that I would feel better. Led weight. Because I think my learning curve is different. So let me go say goodbye to some folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't go to the.
I will, I already talked to my coworkers and I told them, because I'm off one Sunday a month. So I told them I wanted to be the second Sunday. I'm like, unless it's like, you guys have an emergency, unless you guys really need that day off, I won't do it, but so far I have November and December. Oh, I'll always bring in, I can't just show up on my phone without Eddie. So then, I like him a lot. Oh, there's rocks right here.
So, yeah, when I start doing me, then little by little.
Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off.
Okay, brother. But and then she was like, the first time I took